It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 82 today. Glad that you are with us for this 82nd straight Saturday, full one-hour show every single Saturday. We start on July 1st of 2023, January 18th, 25. Guess what? We're still here, coming at you every single week. Full-hour show, episode 82. Glad you're with us. We've missed you. 167 hours since we've last seen you. But now you are here, we are here. Hope you can be clothes-free for the hour. Hope you can be clothes-free for the day, the whole weekend, the whole week, 25/8, as we like to say. Well, we are certainly here together, clothes-free living for all of the right reasons for the next hour. Well, on today's show, part 2 of my interview with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi from the UK. What a great guy. He fully gets it, understands it, very intelligent guy as well. Terrific yoga teacher, terrific practitioner of yoga. Part 2 with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi from the UK. Lisa Monroe will be in just a few moments for an extended segment. And today we will discuss the email that we started last week from the gentleman from Michigan. And we will have him on the show for a full interview down the road as well. But great points about naturism and how we can get through this barrier that says, hey, if you have your clothes off, you better be behind closed doors, pal, or off to jail you go. Well, he has some great ideas on that, so we'll read more of his email. We'll read the rest of his email, and then we'll discuss it as well. We'll talk a little bit about our Patreon page and our merchandise, and then we have a second email as well as a tweet from one of our regular listeners, and we will share all of that with you when Lisa Monroe comes in just a moment or so. As a reminder, we are the official podcast for the American Association for Nude Recreation. Are you a member, as Lisa and I are members? If so, great. You already know the benefits, but if you're not, you can become a member right now. Just go to AANR.com, follow the navigation, and before you know it, you will be a member of the American Association for Nude Recreation. I mentioned our Patreon page just a few moments ago. If you get a moment, if it's within your heart to do so, we would appreciate any and all support you can give us. We do give special content to the upper 2 levels on the 10th of every month. Everybody who gives to the Patreon page becomes a patron, also gets our monthly newsletter. Whatever you can do to keep us going and support us, we appreciate that very much. Well, again, you're listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 82, and with the music in the background, that can only mean one thing, and you know what it is. It's time for the great, the terrific, the one-of-a-kind, the fully over-the-top, fully clothes-free, and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one-of-a-kind, the one and only, fully clothes-free and completely smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. It's getting more and more into January, and it's kind of getting sort of settling into 2025.
Yeah, we're really here. And where we live, it's not overly cold, and it certainly can't complain when it's 30, 40, or 50 degrees because people are dealing with 20, 10, 0, below 0. So no complaints, but at the same time, I guess we're complaining. How about that?
Well, we have a right. It's all relative. So for us, when it's 100 in August and it's, 50 in January or February, guess what? That change is just as bad as from a high of 80 to a low of 30. So it's all relative. And I get cold under 80 anyway. So
Yeah, same here. I went out to dinner with a friend a few weeks ago, and this was back in December, so it's been more than a few weeks ago. And it was 70 degrees, and I walked in with my winter coat on. And he said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Hey, it's 70, baby. I'm freezing."
Yes, yes, the long sleeve
Uh,
shirts and the sweaters and
yeah,
everything else came out during that December cold snap we had.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I will say I showed up when it was 70. The sun was still out. By the time we left, it was night and it was 47. So
Yes,
it had dropped 23 degrees. Just, it
yes,
was a long dinner. I mean, we stayed there forever, but
yeah.
oh well, we just adjust and move on. And anybody wants to come and visit us and bask in the 50 degrees or 40 degrees, you're welcome to do so, right?
Sun's always shining, so it's a
Uh,
good thing.
okay. Well, we always want to thank our patrons who have accessed the Patreon page and become members. We've mentioned it a zillion times. Turning down paid work to do this show, not the best business plan ever created. And we're relying on our listeners, our faithful listeners, because we're faithful to you as well. Every show is 1 hour long, and it's every single blasted Saturday. And Lisa, I didn't tell you this, but we're getting questions. How do we keep doing this? How do we do it? And how do we keep doing it? If time allows, we'll address it today. And if not, we'll address it next week.
Okay.
Uh, it's not magic. It's an actual planned deal, kind of like we talked about the New Year's resolutions last week. We don't just say, "Hey, why don't we start a show, kids?" And then you do 2 episodes and it's gone. There's a rhyme and a reason for what we do. But before we get into all that, we have some patrons to thank today. Why don't you take it from there?
We certainly do. And today we're going to thank Bernard and Ronald. And they're new to the list, and we appreciate that very much.
Yes, we do. And we announced our patrons in the order in which they signed up by the date. If somebody gives $10 million and somebody else gave $100, we don't announce the 10 million person first unless he signed up first, right?
Exactly.
And exercise and fairness around here.
Absolutely. And, we're not even talking about levels or anything else here. These are just
No,
people who have joined, who
yeah,
are supporting the show, and we appreciate that greatly.
yeah, very much so. How are we doing on merchandise? Anything you want to toss in there before we get to the issues at hand?
Just that we appreciate everyone still checking the store out and making orders, and hope that you enjoy it. We'd love to have some feedback and know how people are enjoying their items. So just check us out on our website for the main page for the N shop.
All right. And we are sipping out of our naked nudist and naturist coffee mugs. And I'm just telling you, I don't put sugar in my coffee, but the coffee tastes sweet out of these mugs. I can't explain it.
Well, of course it does, because it's supporting naturism. So what better could there be than supporting
Uh,
naturism?
that's right. Well, on last week's show, we got into an email from the gentleman from Michigan, as we call him here. And he's going to be on the show not too far in the distant future, probably in March or so, we're planning right now. We got through about half of the email, and Lisa, let's go back to that because it's a great email, very well thought out, very well expressed. Obviously, a very intelligent guy. I've not met him, not spoken to him, but you can tell when people write if they have a clue, if they have an IQ above 5.
Exactly.
And he has an IQ substantially higher than that. There's no question. Very bright guy who expressed himself very well. And if you don't mind reading, we're on the paragraph that starts with technically speaking, if you'll take it from there.
I certainly will. Technically speaking, to accord with the First Amendment, such an event cannot be held to a lower standard than other events, so as long as it meets time, place, and manner requirements. Although I will admit that I'm not a constitutional rights attorney, so I may be incorrect on such thinking.
Well, I hope that he is correct because we shouldn't be treated differently than another group, right? That would, my definition of discrimination is exactly that. What do you think?
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a constitutional person. I believe in the standards that we set for this country in that Constitution, and we do have First Amendment rights, and those should not be withheld from anyone. As long as people are not doing anything immoral or illegal, then our rights should be equal for whatever we choose to pursue.
Right. And that somewhat leads into his next paragraph where he says, he's talking about these events. We talked about last week. Can we get events with permits where we are clothes free and showing people how we live life and it's really normal? I feel as though the biggest concern would be the inclusion of those who are not truly naturists or nudists, and they would take advantage of such events in order to further their own sort of deviant acts. I am not fully aware of a way to exclude such individuals in order to make a clothes free event as wholesome and family friendly as possible. That is a huge issue. You get these knuckleheads, or I'll just use the word perverts, who are not naturists. They just want people to see them naked and flash their parts around, and it's disgusting to me and disgusting to a lot of people. On at its core, on the surface, is disgusting to me. But when you add in, we're trying to, close free living for all the pure reasons, it's doubly disgusting because they're hurting our situation. Because people who see that, see, that's the problem with naturists. They just want to show their private parts around, and which is not true, but it just takes one fool to put that thought in people's heads. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's that old adage, one bad apple. And so, and all it takes is one person that is, not a true naturist, but is there for those deviant reasons, as he said, to mess it up for everybody. Just to be not as eloquent as him, it just messes it up, and it keeps us from being able to say we are not those people. Because again, how do you keep them out? I remember the bike ride in New Orleans. I did not participate. I was a bystander watching.
Mhm.
It was fun. It was, it was New Orleans. So it was whimsical. People had weird hats on, or tutus, and naked with a tutu on, or whatever. And yet there were still people who were standing around, and they were making terrible comments about the people who were going by. So, you can't, it's, I guess, human nature to be rude, to feel important by, making comments like that. But it is a really big situation for us. It's even a situation within the nature's communities, like resorts and so forth. They're very restrictive about who they let in, for fear that they're going to let someone in who's like that,
Yeah.
especially single men. And that's, it's unfair in so many ways.
Well, it really is. And that comes back, I guess, on us to an extent in the naturism community, promoting it and educating people. Here is what naturism is. And if you see anybody else doing anything else, that's not naturism. Let us know, let the authorities know. And by the way, the authorities have to be educated too. Standing around naked, throwing a football or playing volleyball, that's normal and natural. Waving your so-called private parts in front of people who really don't want to see them, that's not normal and natural. Cart those people away and don't ever let them see us again, or even get out of prison. Just lock them up forever. Well, that would solve it all. It might be a little harsh, but you get fired up about this stuff, right?
Oh, certainly. And there's an awful lot of talk about body positivity within naturism. But
Mm-hmm.
the real big problem is body positivity doesn't exist outside of naturism.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these people are ashamed, apparently, of it for whatever reason that they have. They're just extremely uncomfortable, embarrassed, whatever. They can't get past letting someone do their own thing. They'll let them wear a yellow shirt even if they hate yellow, but they will not let them be naked.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, if you don't mind reading the next paragraph.
Okay. I look back on general events where AANR and other naturist nudist organizations have made an appearance, and the unfortunate reality that they have always donned clothing in order to present pamphlets to the public. To me, this separates the message from the delivery. I do understand the necessity to comply with venue requirements, but it is unfortunate that a passerby cannot see and understand what the community is about and trying to promote.
And he's right. I've talked to people, and we've had them on the show before. They go to RV events, camping events. All the RV people who sell RVs are there. The camping equipment are there, and they show up. As naturists, we have this clothes-free campground, and you can park your RV here. You can park, or put your tent up here, but they have to have clothes on when they're presenting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Mm-hmm.
the RV people can have their cute little shirt on with their badge on, and my name is so and so from the such and such RV company. But naturists can have their uniform on, which is being clothes free. And he's right. Wouldn't that be great? You show up to an RV event. I want to buy an RV. Oh, some people with no clothes on over there. Let me go talk to them. Yeah, we'd love to have you at our park. Totally normal and natural, right?
It certainly is, and it's just it's a double standard, and it's a double standard that uses morality as a cover, and it's not anything immoral about what we do.
Yeah.
It's what the beholder believes, and it's again just a double standard for us.
Yep. And finishing up, as always, I truly appreciate everything that this podcast does and the incredible dedication put into the philosophy at large. He just keeps upping his spot in first place as our favorite listener of all time, doesn't he?
He certainly does. And, it's kind of a hard spot to get to because we've had some really great listeners, but
Oh, yeah.
this guy's kind of edging his way up there a little bit. And what I love about this is he's thinking about this. This is not, he's looking to ways that we can solve this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge issue. And we need people like him who are grounded in what the reality of this is and who are forethinking enough to, to consider what might be done.
Yeah. Let me read that paragraph again because it includes a word that is in his PS that I'll have you read. And it says, as always, I truly appreciate everything that this podcast does and the incredible dedication put into the philosophy at large. And take it from there.
He added a PS. I have started using philosophy as opposed to lifestyle following the interview with Rona Cozy. I had not thought of the negative connotations that the term lifestyle might imply.
Right. And then he signs off all the best. And he signed his name. We've changed his name, though, to the gentleman from Michigan. And look for him on the show. I can't wait to have him on. Obviously, a very intelligent guy, thinks everything through, and has options and opinions as to how we can improve. And so we appreciate his email very much. And he's right. You say the word lifestyle, and people immediately go to the swinger life. I don't know why. We could be here forever discussing that. Well, we are not swingers.
No.
We believe in living clothes free, the natural life, and so on. So I guess, yeah, using the word philosophy is probably much better and preferred over lifestyle, right?
Oh, I think so. And I actually had been using community to kind of describe the
Yeah.
naturist.
Yeah.
As opposed to lifestyle for that reason. But in reading this and thinking back to what Rana said, I think maybe even community doesn't give us enough. And so I do like this philosophy because we're not just a community of people coming together for like reason. We actually have a philosophy
Hmm.
that brought us together.
That's
And
right.
so I'm going to try to use that word philosophy again. And thanks to our gentleman and to Rana for bringing that point up.
Our gentleman from Michigan.
Hmm.
All right. We also got a tweet on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. And this is from Ken. He's out in Texas. He's been on the show before. He sent a voice message to us. We played that on an earlier episode. We've read a couple of tweets from him. And why don't you go ahead and read this tweet from Ken, who's out of Texas?
Ken says some ideas on promoting nudist lifestyle, TV and radio ads on how nudity is normal and not sexual. Also, if we could get Hollywood to start putting nudist positives in movies, not to make fun of nudists or shame them, but how normal nudist lifestyle is and how it should be expected.
Well, there you go. He just hit
Here,
it
here.
right on the nail there,
Mhm.
right on the head. I know of families because they've told me. I've not seen it. They live clothes free in the home. When they
Mhm.
leave the home, they have clothes on. They don't tell anybody about it. I mean, I know because I know the people. How often, let's say the wife is at home, clothes free, whatever she's doing, just got home from work herself, or she's cooking or whatever, and the husband walks in and sees her clothes free. Well, that's normal. That's what they do. It's normal to them. He takes his clothes off, and now we, live our
Mhm.
clothes free evening together. So that is the normal nudist lifestyle. When it's on TV or movies, we never see that. In fact, if you do walk in on a naked woman or a naked man, it's always, oh my goodness, either run
Yeah.
for the exits or hey, baby, and the
Yeah.
saxophone music starts in the background. And as he said, it just kind of makes fun of being naked or puts shame on them and gets everybody's I guess, feeling of security lessened. Gosh, I wish we can get away from that. He's right. If we could put it in TV shows and Hollywood and radio ads, wouldn't it be so much better?
He is absolutely right. And I watch a lot of British television because I simply love British murder mysteries. And I've also gotten into watching shows from Europe. And that happens in those shows. actor might get out of bed naked because they slept naked, and they might pad around their apartment or whatever for a bit until they get dressed to go out. Or someone answered the door in one show. He did have an apron on, but he was cooking, but he was naked otherwise. And so there was that, connotation that, hey, people are naked in their homes and it's okay to show it because there was nothing sexual about any of that. It was just natural. We do need to start doing that. Well, we know we always show the bikinis and
Right.
the muscle bound guys in their tight speedos, but we will not show them naked. And those are more sexual connotations than being naked, doing the laundry would be.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that is the answer because people still think being naked is inappropriate, it's sexual, and oh my goodness, if we make it normal, you see somebody naked, no, how's your day going? And then it's just like everything else in life. I do want to get, by the way, we thank Ken from Texas for that tweet. Yeah, we got another email from a gentleman. I'm going to call him the gentleman from New England.
We've certainly got a lot of gentlemen friends. I swear I'm going to turn into Scarlett O'Hara here.
That's right. We have nothing but gentlemen who write into us. And Ken's a gentleman too. I should have pointed that out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind, it starts off with hello, Frank and Lisa. Why don't you take it from there?
It says on the recent episodes with Gareth Johnson, there was a discussion of people having issues with having nudist related content removed from YouTube. I've seen this issue also get mentioned by various content creators elsewhere, even for nudist content without nudity. I found a workaround for this, which is not necessarily ideal, and obviously it'd be better if the root cause could be addressed. But until then, there is an option that might help.
All right. And he gives several options. Step one, put your videos up on one channel. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account. It's all Google. Just put whatever content you create that represents your interests. If one of those interests happens to be naturism, so be it. And what's his step two?
Step two is bland labeling. Don't give your video a title that would make the robots nervous. I love that line. Because those bots get nervous. As an example, if you're reviewing a beach, just say the name of the beach. Hollover Beach, Miami is good enough.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't want to say, we're naked as jaybirds and come and look at our naked bodies. Probably a bad title for YouTube.
Probably so.
Yeah. All right. Step three, create a second channel. YouTube lets you create as many channels as you feel like. This will be the channel with a name that gives the audience more information. As an example, I created New England Nude Beaches or whatever you're going with. And step four.
On that second, create a playlist which should also have a more informative title and fill it with the relevant videos from the first channel. So there you go. Your videos are up on one channel, but there's nothing about them that will scare the robots. And your target audience will be able to find them on a channel which doesn't have any content that can be taken down.
Well, there you go. You trick the whole system. They put a system up that's not fair to begin with. We'll find a way around it. And we appreciate this gentleman, a gentleman from New England area. We appreciate him very much. A great suggestion. He finishes with saying, thank you for keeping the podcast going. Well, you are very welcome. We enjoy it. The philosophy, the whole point behind clothes-free living, naturism, nudism, is to enjoy the gifts that we were given. This is how we were born. It's how we're supposed to live, how we were intended to live, we believe, based on facts, based on history, and all that good stuff, right?
Absolutely. We wouldn't do this if we didn't love this philosophy and that we didn't believe in it. And it's just, I was thinking this morning, kind of, so I was walking around to get dressed to come here. It felt good to just kind of walk around and not have to worry about anything. And um, I don't know. People need to understand if they only experience it once, as we've often heard, they don't ever want to go back.
No kidding. Once they come off, they stay off unless you have to put them on. And we're trying to get rid of the unless you have to put them on thing, right?
Exactly.
We talked a little bit about how do we do this every single week? How do we keep this going? Now 82 straight Saturdays. No breaks, no time off during the holidays. We just keep coming and we keep coming. It's like a steam engine gaining steam. How do we keep doing it? And why don't we plan to address that next week on episode 83?
Okay. It sounds good to me because I think it's important for people to understand that, This is takes up a lot of time, and but we do it because we thoroughly enjoy it and we love getting this message out to people who appreciate it.
Absolutely. And whether they're beginners, people thinking about it, people heard about it, or people who've been naturists for 150 years, we cater to everybody and we appreciate everybody out there. So hang with us. Thank you for being here. And Lisa Monroe, go out there and have a great close free week, and we'll see you next week.
You too, Frank, and to everyone, same thing, and bye.
Bye. The very terrific Lisa Monroe comes in here once a week for these segments, does our website work, our Patreon work, our meme work. She does it all, and we appreciate her very much. The terrific Lisa Monroe. Glad that you're with us today. You're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 82 today. Hope you're having a close-free hour with us. And now let's get to part 2 of my interview with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi from the UK. Well, what's it like being a yoga teacher, and specifically a teacher of naked yoga? Do people look upon you differently? Are you accepted within the yoga community, or how does all that work, and any challenges that you face along the way?
I think I've been quite fortunate, I suppose. You know, I teach. I've been teaching yoga for 10 years. I've been teaching naked yoga now for nearly 5 years, and the relationships that I have with other yoga teachers have always been perfectly pleasant. Perfectly, there's that sense of great curiosity about it. There's a sense of cheering each other on. The community of yoga as a general rule tends to be one that's very, very supportive of each other. Like I say, there are always going to be people that want to criticize or make stories up that are just complete fallacies about this, but that's human nature. That could apply to yoga. It could apply to absolutely anything. If somebody wants to have an opinion, then that's absolutely their right. Some of the challenges, I suppose, that I faced with the naked teaching, as opposed to when I was predominantly teaching clothed yoga in studios in London when I lived there, was I think it's people's, perhaps let's call it people's intentions of sexualizing something which is completely non-sexual. And I find that quite a challenge myself. My whole reason for starting the Bearded Naked Yogi was to create an environment and a community where people could come together as naturists and practice yoga, practice meditation, learn about the philosophy, get together on retreats where these environments were strictly non-sexualized. The world is a very sexualized place, Frank, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that, and I'm certainly not a prude. It just seemed to me, and at the point of life that I was in, wouldn't it be nice to have an environment where actually that isn't the predominant reason, that isn't the predominant vibe of something? So that's what I wanted to create. But I think the challenges I faced have been from people trying to sexualize a community, a vibe, a class, an event, which is non-sexual. That's quite a big challenge. And it's all about intention. It's all about perspective again. And it is also about a bit of understanding. There is a space for everything in this world, Frank. And I absolutely believe that. And I will always fight to the death for someone's expression, as long as it doesn't harm anyone and as long as they're not harming themselves. Knock yourself out. This is your life at the end of the day. When it comes to this community that's grown up around the Bearded Naked Yogi, actually, this is a space for people where you can go, actually, do you know what? I'm safe here. I'm safe. I'm not going to be chatted up. I'm not going to be sexualized or objectified even, and it's and I think that's a really, really important thing. And it's a challenge to keep that vibe going. Some people then criticize me, Frank, because because I don't host sexualized naked events. And
Jeez.
my favorite one is, Frank, my favorite one is, you don't teach yoga like my other teacher teaches yoga.
Let's hope not, right?
I said to this person, I said, well, why don't you go and practice with them then?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be who you want me to be. I can only be who I am. I can only live my life, my ethos, run my classes, run this business on those values and principles that are important to me as a human being and very
Right.
important to me as a naturist.
Right.
I'm not willing to change myself in order to meet someone else's expectations of me. I think that's completely wrong. I don't try to be the teacher for everyone, Frank, and I think that's a long road to nowhere, isn't it? I try to be the teacher for those people that have a similar set of values, that have a similar ethos to me. This is naked yoga, and
Yeah.
this is what naked yoga is. Hope that makes
Well,
sense.
well, oh gosh, 100% perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because as people discover as they go through life, if you try to fake it and try to be somebody you're not,
You can't do
people will catch on. And whether
it.
it's
Yeah.
totally consciously, like this guy's a fraud, there'll still be a level of being uncomfortable. I don't know. I just don't like his class, or in my case, I don't like his show. Can't totally figure out why. Well, because subconsciously they know we're frauds because we're trying to be other people. You're being yourself. So when people go, they feel very comfortable with you. Same
Yeah.
with this show. They know exactly what we do. We're
Yeah.
not frauds. We are who we are and who we say we are.
Yeah.
And people know the difference, sometimes at the conscious level, sometimes the subconscious level. So you're definitely doing it the right way. And I'm guessing you don't really question that, right? I mean, you know you're doing it the right way.
I absolutely believe I'm
Yeah.
doing it the right way. I
Yeah.
think if you look at it from one of those perspectives of the challenge of doing this, and I guess this is going to be a personal perspective for me, but the amount of almost external pressure that's put on sometimes to, you know should I do things slightly differently, should I go down a path of, you know something that's a little bit uncomfortable for me,
Yeah.
should I learn how to teach the kind of neo tantric techniques and things like this. And in my absolute heart, I cannot do it, Frank.
Right.
I
Right.
absolutely cannot do it, partly because, I've studied yoga a lot. I've studied the different styles of yoga a lot, and like I said before, to me, the truth of yoga lies within yourself, and all of these different practices and things that have come up over the sort of modern age and stuff. Yes, it's yoga, but it's yoga that's got a different spin put on it. It's this or it's that, and let's take Tantra as an example. The original texts of Tantra, and I think I've read most of them, to be honest. There's not a lot of touchy-feely stuff going on in there, Frank. It's all about
Okay.
yourself. It's all about cultivating that beautiful relationship with yourself, cultivating the love for yourself. And
Yeah.
that's the true heart of yoga. So that kind of external pressure, maybe, I actually take it as a little bit of fuel to go, actually, do you know what, Matt? You are doing the right thing.
Hmm.
And again, those wonderful, beautiful messages that you receive from people, that's what keeps me going. That's what
Yeah.
keeps me going. Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. That's why they come to you to begin with, but that's also why they
Mm,
return to you time and time
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
We are talking to
Definitely.
Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. And Matt, before we continue on, tell our listeners how they can find you, sign up for a class, anything you want to put out there.
Absolutely. So you can find our website at thebeardednakedyogi.com. And on that website, you will find a whole host of information about all of the different classes that we offer during the week, not just myself, but also the Bearded Naked Yogi team, some incredible teachers available. There's lots of information about our retreats through the year. You can find our own, the Bearded Naked podcast, where we talk a little in depth about yogic philosophy and the interplay of that philosophy with the principles of naturism and nudism. You can also find, what else can you find there, Frank? There's a blog. There's you can meet all of the teachers online. We have a whole host. We have a free meditation channel for people that they can access on YouTube, and all of the information is there. People are very, very welcome to come along and join a class sometime, and we'd absolutely love to see them come and be part
Oh,
of the community.
oh, very good. What do you do with your podcast? Is it, first of all, how often do you turn out an episode? And then is it all about naked yoga, the philosophy, the different things going on within? Or?
Yeah, it tends to be. So I did season one earlier this year, which was then published, and it's not on the similar format to your own podcast here. There's not one episode a week.
Okay.
It's for a set number of episodes, anywhere between 6 and 8, let's say. We'll focus in on one specific aspect. So
Okay.
season one concentrated on the philosophy behind what's called the 8 limbs of yoga. Season two, which will start to be released, I'm hoping around in about a month's time, um, that's going to focus on some of the more mental aspects of one's consciousness, perspectives and imaginations, and the mental faculties that we have, and how they're interpreted within yoga. And we take a really sort of, I mean, it sounds incredibly complex here, but it's not. It's offered in a very simple and easy to understand way. But one of the interesting things is where we do explore that intersection between yogic philosophy and also the philosophy and the principles of naturism and nudism, and the parallels between the two, of which there are countless parallels. This is why I've always thought that this practice of naked yoga is the perfect blend, to be honest, between those philosophies and between those principles. It's very, very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I do want to explore that whole thing you just mentioned about yogic and naturism philosophies.
Mm.
Before we do, though, I heard a series that you did with another podcast host from his name is Gareth, and he was
Ah,
in
yes,
Australia at the time, and then he's in the
yeah,
UK now. Is that
yeah.
the same as what you're talking about, or is that a totally different show?
That was a totally different show. So Gareth has his own podcast as well,
Yeah,
where Naked Men Talking, where he
right.
talks to male naturists from across the world, across the vast spectrum of
Right.
naked living. Um, and he publishes those episodes quite frequently, I believe. And
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and that was a wonderful conversation to have with him, to speak to someone with that journalistic background, very
yeah,
similar to yourself,
yeah.
very interesting questions, and a really lovely discussion to have had. And in fact, I loved his Australian accent so much. I actually asked him if he would help me with the Bearded Naked podcast. A lot of people really enjoyed his lovely Australian tones.
Sure.
So those podcasts on the Bearded Naked podcasts, they're a series of ongoing conversations between Gareth and
Okay.
myself about naturism, yogic philosophy, and how it all kind of
Oh,
weaves together. Yeah, he's
okay.
got a
Yeah,
lovely,
very good.
lovely voice.
Oh yeah, definitely so. We had Gareth on this show, back in November, December of 2024, whenever it was. And he's a great interviewer, but he was also a terrific interviewee. And we
Yeah,
even had some fun with it because it's very easy when you do your own show and you've done it forever, like I have and like he has.
yeah.
If you're the guest, you tend to drop back into the host mode. And so I would ask him a question and he would answer it. And then he'd ask me, a return question. And I had to tell him, like, Gareth, this is my show. You're here to listen. You're here to listen and answer. We had a good time. I mean, jokingly, obviously, but a very
Oh, of
good
course, of course.
conversation. Yeah. Yeah. A terrific
Yeah,
conversation with
yeah.
him. But
It's
what you've done with him is different than what you do on your own website.
Yeah, so the conversations I've had for the Naked Men Talking podcast have been quite different in terms of then the podcast that I have on the Bearded Naked site, which again is that intersection of how the philosophy of yoga, when examined, parallels very, very neatly
Okay.
with philosophies behind naturism, the
Yeah.
reasons for doing this, the principles behind it, things like that. And that's something that's always been very, very fascinating to me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I had not heard this word before until you used it, yogic, Yogic.
Yep.
But the yogic and naturist, naturism philosophies,
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit, the similarities. And at least to me, they definitely work together, but you're more of an expert than I am. So, what are your thoughts?
Yoga fundamentally is a philosophy, and it's a philosophy that at its heart is a guided path, if you like. It's a tried and tested methodology here for understanding oneself, getting to know all aspects of oneself, the things that drive us forward, the things that hold us back, the different perspectives that we may have cultivated in our lives because of society, our upbringing, our culture, anything.
Mm.
What yoga does is very gently and sometimes powerfully, it guides the practitioner just to remove these layers bit by bit by bit. I have a perspective as a human being. I was born in the United Kingdom. My life has, you know, I've grown up in the West. My life path has been my life path. And then because of that, I've developed certain biases. I've developed certain perspectives. I've got hopes. I've got dreams. But these are all very influenced as to how my life has been led. What yoga teaches us is to re-examine all of that stuff about ourselves, to ask ourselves a very important set of questions in terms of who am I when I'm not being me? Who am I when I'm not being Matt?
Hmm.
Matt essentially is an identity and a personality that has grown up over 46 years, and this is what it is. But is that the true essence of myself? Is that the truth of my reality?
Hmm.
And what yoga teaches us is that actually it's possibly not. Now, there's nothing wrong or right with that, but yoga does teach us and guide us along this path that ultimately is this sense of liberation,
Hmm.
great sense of liberation, a sense of connection with yourself, a great sense of connection with the environment around you. The physical practices of yoga, which most people would be familiar with, going back to the yoga studios and the yoga classes, there's not many people out there that discuss philosophy in such detail.
Yeah.
But that sense of a connection with your body, a sense of feeling at home within your body, cultivating, perhaps taking it even further, that sense of body acceptance, that sense of body positivity. Now, when we use all of these these phrases rather, well, that sounds to me an awful lot like naturism. It sounds to
Yeah.
me an awful lot like the practice of nudism. It's about getting to know yourself. Who
Mm.
are you without this external aspect that we call clothing? How
Hmm.
comfortable are you without
Yeah.
that mask that you wear?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
What's that connection you've got with your body? How positive do you feel about your body? What's that connection with your environment? What's that connection with the people that are around you? That interplay of those things, I find that very, very interesting between naturism and the practice of yoga in its entirety. And I think the two things sit very, very comfortably side by side. There's a whole world there to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than the time I spend at that one studio that I talked to you about, when I do yoga and I have DVDs that I'll put on, which is good, but it's not great because it's the same blasted thing every time you put on. There's no variation at all. But having clothes on to do that, and I'm not being silly when I say this, that literally makes no sense to me. Why would you
Yeah,
get into the mode of stretching with clothes on that
yeah.
actually inhibit stretching, right?
And restricts
Yeah,
the ability of the body to move.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. You know, I think it's on the one hand, it's a fortunate thing that, you know, the explosion of yoga over the last few decades, certainly in the West, has opened out that practice to many, many millions more people that may never have heard about it, may never have
yeah,
tried it, may never have taken it up. I speak for myself, you know, that's absolutely wonderful. The
right.
flip side of that is, you know, yoga in inverted commas has become this multi-billion global industry.
Yeah.
Clothes,
Mm,
accessories,
yeah,
jewelry,
yeah, yeah.
holidays, this, that, everything, everything, everything. And I it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
lot, Frank. You know, I sometimes I look at these things, you know, these yoga wear. Why do you have to have something special to wear to go to a yoga class?
yeah, yeah.
And tell me why I have to pay $250 for the privilege. Tell me that.
Exactly right.
Tell you what, I'll take my clothes off instead.
Yeah, well, there you go. Use what you were given. When I went to this that studio I was telling you about, I had a small pair of running shorts, jogging shorts,
Mhm.
and a very thin T-shirt, and that was it. Some of the women who showed up, like every day, they'd have a new outfit on. They'd have lime green stretch pants or whatever, flaming orange top, and
I mean, I'm all for it. You know, fashion has its place in the world.
yeah, sure,
That's what I think. And like, you
yeah,
know, I do think fashion has a place in the world. Don't get me wrong, you know, and it is an art form, and and it can be very, very beautiful. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, Frank, to be honest.
I know. Certainly a
Yeah,
foreign concept to you and a foreign concept to me. But at the same time, if that's what somebody wants to do, kind of like you said before, let them do it. It's not hurting you. It's not hurting me. Just at least
yeah.
they're doing yoga. At least they're out there trying to improve
Exactly,
themselves. Right?
exactly. And I think one of the most important things that I could possibly say, and probably from my perspective as a teacher, but also my perspective as a human being, and as a human being who enjoys the practice of naturism, and I enjoy being without clothes. You know, it's all got to come down to the individual. I think it's a wonderful thing to promote the benefits of naked yoga, to promote the
Mhm.
benefits of naturism, um, really cultivating, it seems, from my eyes, from what I've seen, a greater sense of acceptance within the world, that those
Mhm.
people that may not want to do it themselves, but you know what? Hey, I don't have a problem with you doing it. I totally get it, and that's cool. And I think that's the really important thing. You know, people have to come to yoga. People have to come to naturism on their own terms and in their own level of comfort of what they want to do. I never think it's about, you know, you should do this and you're wrong if you don't do that. I think
Right.
again, that's a long road to nowhere. I think a sense of acceptance of each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
which is what yoga and naturism teaches. It is that sense of acceptance of each other. You know what? You're a human being. I'm a human being. We've got different levels of comfort, different levels of interest, and different levels of expressing ourselves in the world. You know, I could say to you, and I'm like, I love that for you. That's not something maybe I would want to do, but I
Right.
love that for you. And I love that
Yeah.
you found something that you
Yeah.
love to do. And
That's right.
equally, that goes the other way. You know what I mean? It's all about acceptance here, I think.
It's supposed to go the other way, and sometimes I found anyway. Oftentimes it does not. Like I get
No,
people who basically say they might not say these exact words, but it's certainly what they mean. If you agree with me, then you're terrific, and if you don't, then you're basically a loser. Like, well, why would you ever say
absolutely.
that? I've never said that to you. If you
Absolutely.
believe that, maybe I think you're misguided if you believe ABC, but it doesn't mean you're a fool. It just means your experiences have led you to
No,
believing ABC are correct, whereas my experiences tell me that XYZ are correct. It doesn't
precisely.
make either. Yeah, so just accept each other, move
Precisely.
on, And
exactly.
yeah, so sometimes it doesn't go both ways.
No, it doesn't, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's, that's that really is a shame. But I think certainly, again, from what I've seen, various publications, the sort of shows that I've listened to, the media that I'm exposed to and stuff, there is such an incredible amount of work going on in the world from the global community of naturists, the
Mhm.
global community of naked yoga, about promoting this as not an alternative to the mainstream, but actually saying, you know what, we're here. We're
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
This is what we do.
yeah,
And allowing people to see life lived without clothes, allowing people to see yoga practiced without clothes. And hopefully, the only hope I think you can ever have on these things is going, ah, I understand it a little bit better.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
understand it a little bit better. And that's the only fleck of gold that you need.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
in just about every city, at least in America, a decent sized city, doesn't have to be a New York or LA, but let's say a city of 10,000 or more people, there are yoga studios. Just like there are coffee shops and grocery stores, there are yoga studios. And I probably see 7 or 8 of them on my, if I go from my home to, let's say, the freeway, the expressway, I take 2 main roads and about 7 or 8 yoga studios there. Fine. Not one of them says naked yoga. And I've always thought, if you opened one of those, because there are a lot of, lack of a better term, closet naturists, they love being clothes free, but they don't do it in social situations. They don't advertise it. They don't tell anybody about it other than their immediate friends and family. Open up a naked yoga studio for all of the right reasons. I think eventually that place will be packed. But at the same time, you'll have other people driving by. Oh, wonder what goes on there. Probably a whole bunch of stuff. I'd better call the police on them. And so you win and you lose at the same time half
you're
the time, don't
damned if you do, and you're damned
you?
if you don't. That's the thing. And you know what, Frank? I'd rather be damned. That's the thing. I'd rather be damned. You know what? I think you could wrap up that, whatever people's perception of me, of the bearded naked yogi, of the classes and the retreats and all the rest of it, that's their perception. And the only thing that anyone can do, that I can do, that you can do, is put out the very best of yourself into the world. And
Yeah.
those people that resonate with what you're saying, those people that feel a sense of inspiration, or even a sense of, that pull of a community that perhaps they've been looking for and never quite found, that's all
Mm,
you can do. That's all you can do. And you welcome those people with open arms, and you wrap them in all the care and attention that they need and they want. You guide them within the practice. You share your wisdom, you share your knowledge. And those people that are interested, those people that think it's something that it isn't, those people that want to have a laugh, and those people that want to express their disgust in an aggressive manner. Thanks. That's all I can say. Thanks.
That's
Thanks.
the way to do it. Well, before we let you go, talking to Matt, the bearded naked yogi, before we give your website again, if people get a hold of you now, the services that you offer, as I understand it, online naked yoga. Also, you do clothed yoga if people prefer, and you have retreats. Do I have all of the elements there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We have, like I say, there's a lot of resources on the website that people can take their time to browse through. There's a blog on there that grows every week with new posts. You'll find links there to our meditation channel on YouTube, which has almost now about 100 meditations on, um, that people can enjoy for free if that's an aspect of the practice that people are curious about. And I always encourage people as well, stay in touch with us. It's we send out quite regular newsletters at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, with lots and lots of information, interesting articles, um, things that either I've written, the other teachers have written, that want to share out with the world. And pretty much on every page on the website, you'll see the option to subscribe to the newsletter. And one of the things that I'm definitely looking at in the coming years, I very, very much hope to come over to the US itself and actually meet a lot of people from over there. I have a lot of students from the US, private students, because of the time zone differences. I think it's okay for you boys in the Eastern time zone because it's not too difficult, but certainly over on the West Coast. And I'm very, very keen for the opportunity to come over and actually meet these people and actually practice with these people and actually say hi face to face for the first time.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Actual human beings, not just
Actual
images on the
human
screen.
beings. Yeah. It's wonderful on retreats, you know. It's you could be practicing with someone for years and years on the Bearded Naked boat cruise that happened last year in October. One of the guys that joined us, I'd been practicing with him online for probably about 3 years. I see him 2-3 times a week, you know. I get to know him through that kind of medium. But when you see someone in the flesh for the first time, it's like, hi! But, you know, it's just like meeting an old friend. It's no different, except they're not living inside my computer.
That's right. You've mentioned a few times that you talked about your team and your teachers. And I know that probably changes periodically. People come and go. But on a given day, a given week, how many people on your team? How many teachers?
There's 3 of us at the moment. There's 3 of us that teach the classes, and then for the retreats, we also have an expanded team as well. So there's people that will help with the catering of the retreats. We have expert masseurs as well that we can call upon for when we hold events and stuff like that. So I'd say during the week, there's about 3 of us, but that can go up to about 6 or 7, depending on the event and the number of people. Yeah. Yeah. It's a growing team. It's a growing team.
Oh, yeah. Well, great to have talked to you again. We've been talking to Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. And I won't even mention, Matt, that you have a shirt on right now. I won't even mention that. We'll just let that go.
No, it's probably best. I won't mention again that it is my favorite t-shirt, and I am in the UK, and it's very cold. And I hope you and your listeners will forgive me.
You are hereby forgiven. But next time...
Next time I'll be in Spain. Don't worry. I'll be back home in Spain.
You'll be properly attired next time. That's very good. Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. Before we go, Matt, tell our listeners again your website and how to get a hold of you.
Wonderful. You can get hold of me via the website at thebeardednakedyogi.com, and all the information you need is there. Drop us an email, send us a line, and we'd absolutely love to hear from you. And thank you so much for today, Frank. I've absolutely loved this. And if my t-shirt horrifies you so much, I'm going to take it off, you see. I'm going to risk pneumonia here in the freezing UK.
Now that's a dedicated.
It's so cold, Frank. It's so cold.
You are willing to get pneumonia just to help out the show. I think that's great.
Showbiz is showbiz, Frank. The show's got to go on, hasn't it?
All right. Again, Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi, and he really is naked now, so we can call him that once again. Matt, go out there and have a great clothes-free day if you can in the UK. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much. Look after yourself, Frank. Thanks for having me.
You too. Thank you. The very terrific Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi from the UK. What a great guy, a terrific human being, a great yoga teacher, and a great practitioner of yoga. Check him out. His contact information is in the show notes. And we thank Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi, for all of his time on these last 2 shows. And on episodes 83 and 84, our featured guest will be Cindy Tendick. She is one of the managing partners for the Shangri-La Ranch in Arizona. She's also the president of AANR, the Western Region. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 82 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist. Have a great clothes-free day.